WWE Backlash is coming up very, very soon, a few weeks from St. Louis, and therefore we have to sit down like the geeks and nerds we are and try to figure out what's going to happen on the show, only for it then not to happen, and we get all very sad. Now, the good thing is we know it's going to be John Cena versus Randy Orton, so that one I'm definitely going to get right. So I suppose we can try and predict it, even though we'll do our official predictions in a few weeks. I cannot see Randy Orton winning the world title, and I can see John Cena doing something completely terrible in order to win, and of course it could go back to that match they did years and years ago. It must have been over 12 years maybe by now, and you may not have seen it if you're a brand new wrestling fan, but obviously back then John Cena was a super duper whooper good guy. Randy Orton was the horrible heel that we all hated, so Randy Orton intentionally got himself disqualified by slapping the referee, meaning that he won. Even though he didn't win, John Cena won, but he was able to keep his championship, etc., etc. It was, I don't know if it was lame or good at the time. It's aged very well. Back then, WWE was doing so many stupid finishes, it was kind of hard to justify, whereas now you look back, and if they had done it sort of not as much as they did do, it actually was a fun idea, but it's hard as well, right? Because when you build something as a main event, and it's a pay-per-view, and you've paid your hard-earned money, as we did back then, and then you have somewhat of a cheap finish, it's going to annoy a lot of people, but I can absolutely see John Cena doing something like that here. Or maybe somebody gets involved. Not Travis Scott, and it's not going to be The Rock, but there could be a new friend that John Cena has, or it could depend on who Randy Orton is going to feud afterwards. I don't think we're going to do John Cena versus Randy Orton round 3 or any time round 2 in terms of the New Days. But I am excited about it because, again, bad guy John Cena, good guy Randy Orton. Not in my wildest dreams that I think the WWE would ever get here, so I commend them for striking while the iron was hot and giving it to us, especially because it's going to be in St. Louis. That's Randy Orton's hometown. There won't be any WrestleMania nonsense where we're booing Cody Rhodes and we're cheering John Cena. I'm sure a few people will. We all like nostalgia. It'll be a lovely walk down nostalgia lane. And listen, Randy Orton could win, but he's not going to. I don't think John Cena is going to be the champion for only a month. And really, given how he did finish WrestleMania 41, I think Cody Rhodes is going to have to be the guy to get that title back. But I really, really do like it. I think it'll be an excellent main event. Although, at the same time, you could argue it's not going to be the main event because it seems very likely we are going to get Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, because they are now in love with each other, taking on CM Punk and Roman Reigns, who do not love each other at all, but of course they're going to have to team up to take down a greater evil. And man, if you had told me that when I sat there watching WrestleMania Night 1's main event, I never would have called that. I never had this on my bingo card, but that is an incredible tag team match. Now, I know sometimes it's ridiculous when we do kind of fall into these faux tag team match that we have made up, but it won't be. John Cena will be the main event. But you could make that the main event and nobody's going to roll any eyes. Seth Rollins, massive star. Roman Reigns, massive star. CM Punk, massive star. Braun Breaker, the star that we're trying to make right now. And again, we'll get into this in a few more weeks when we've had more Raws and SmackDowns to kind of make heads and tails out of it. But I can't see CM Punk and Roman Reigns winning this. You can't start the Paul Heyman group with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and have them lose. So something massive is going to go down here. So this is a super duper exciting match. I can't wait to watch it. And I think really, throughout 2025, we are going to have to establish this Seth Rollins' group as your major heel confection. Well, that means heel stable. And does that mean CM Punk's going to go away for a while? Roman probably will be going away for a while, so maybe we take out him by doing something dastardly. And I actually think that Jeff Cobb could inject himself into this match. If you don't know, Jeff Cobb is we'll call him a New Japan wrestler, but he's way more seasoned than that. He has definitely signed with WWE, and he didn't debut at WrestleMania. He didn't debut on the weeks and Raws after WrestleMania. So I'd have to imagine they're saving him for Backlash in St. Louis, and what an amazing team that will be. It's kind of interesting because if we're looking at Seth and Braun's group as 2.0 evolution, it doesn't really work the more I think about it, because Paul Heyman isn't an active wrestler, and he would be the Ric Flair of the group, and Ric Flair was wrestling at the time. I suppose you could argue that we either need the Randy Orton or the Batista, and Jeff Cobb is neither of these. It depends how you see Braun Breaker, but Jeff Cobb is more of he's a veteran, right? He's really good, and he will fly in WWE. He'll be superb. But he can be the muscle of the group, which is a dumb thing to say, because Braun Breaker is also the muscle of the group. I just think WWE portrays big guys like that in a different way. So this really, really could be good. He can wipe out CM Punk, and he can wipe out Roman Reigns. Again, maybe we do Punk versus Jeff Cobb. I mean, does Punk have to go through Braun Breaker and Seth? This is why I like it, right? There's so much we have to do here. And of course, there's so many other matches we want to. John Cena versus CM Punk. Money in the Bank is in June, I think the 7th or something like that. You know, obviously it goes back to Money in the Bank 2012 when we did the iconic John Cena versus CM Punk match. Surely that has to be in the cards because John Cena's going to have to feud with some people. So it just sums up. You could build Backlash off these two matches and not even worry about the rest. but of course there will be more. Because based on SmackDown, I do think we're going to get Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton. I'm not entirely massively enthused about it. We talked about it just because I feel like we did this too much in 2024 and in early 2025. I think we've gone back to the well too soon. However, I do understand why we're doing it. Given that Tiffany Stratton beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, you now need to establish her as a champion because, of course, going in, nobody really knew, is Charlotte going to win? Is Tiffany going to win? I genuinely thought that Charlotte Flair would get the win and we'd extend this program. We have most definitely drawn a line under it, and it actually sounds like Charlotte may be changing up her character soon, so that's going to be interesting. And as much as I like Nia Jax, she doesn't need to win. She can take the loss and she can just be used as a stepping stone to establish Tiffany Stratton as a big deal. She gets a big win on pay-per-view. It doesn't have to go that long. Obviously, Nia Jax can use her power and Tiffany Stratton can fight back and hit the PME. So I suppose it does work because we do need to, like I say, we just need to establish Tiffany Stratton in the position that she is in. She really needs to become the biggest women's wrestler on SmackDown, and she probably is in that position, but maybe some of it is through circumstance. Let's do it through aura, to use the 2025 word. And she's well on track, right? Given how long she's been doing this, the crowd reactions. I like the match at WrestleMania. Turns out maybe I'm in the minority, which I do not get. I like the messiness and the sloppiness. I hate that term, but it made it feel like a fight. But I think you want to do this on pay-per-view. Don't do it on a random SmackDown, because again, it will have less gravitas. Let Tiffany Stratton win. And I guess we have to have somebody else ready for her. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know who that is. US title match is also going to be there, and this should be an absolute banger too. Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu versus Damian Priest. Now, this is based on what we saw on SmackDown. So maybe we spin off into these two, sort of repeating what we did at WrestleMania. But that kind of feels quite boring to me, especially because Drew and LA now have definite beef with each other after what happened on Friday. The only issue is you can't take that belt off Jacob Fatu now. He's too over. Unless Solo Sikoa is going to screw him. That way he gets his big moment at WrestleMania and then he loses it and he can spin off into that feud, which we did talk about over WrestleMania weekend. But then what do? Like a Drew McIntyre LA Knight feud for the belt, which you could do too, but I think Drew McIntyre's probably going to have to win that championship. And I like the fact we're getting short title reigns, but you don't want to go too far the other side because then it'll be unbalanced. And as for Damian Priest, it kind of sucks. I really like Damian, but of all the people in this, he feels like the least likely to win the US Championship. So whatever we do with him coming out the other side, we really have to think about it, because he had a terrific 2024, great championship run, and he had a badass 2025. I don't want to say he's lost in the mix. I think it's just because he lost to Drew McIntyre. And he should have lost to Drew McIntyre, but you want to make sure he has a plan, and of course he cost Drew on SmackDown, which I think will lead to this four-way. Or you could, again, like I say, you could redo Drew and Damian, and then you could do LA Knight and Jacob Fatu rounds 2 on each of them. But it's a little bit dull when you could do a four-way. And after the success of the multi-mans we did see at WrestleMania, I can understand why WWE would be confident to go back to them. I think Jacob Fatu would probably hold on to his belt, but we have to do something with Solo Sikoa as well. So maybe one of them could feud off with him too, like there's certainly an option. But I think, again, when you start actually structuring this card, people use the term B pay-per-view, feels a little bit disparaging, because there's some real heavyweight people in here. Like Jacob Fatu will be a world champion at one point. Drew McIntyre has to be on the cusp. And this is either a mid-term program for him before Cody Rhodes comes back or something else. He could even feud with Randy Orton. LA Knight just knows how to stay over forever. And we talked about Damian Priest. We need to take care of him, as bizarre as that sounds. But we do. But I would enjoy this. I would look forward to it. And again, especially because you could get some outside shenanigans, which we want to contain here. Don't go too crazy with it, because we've already talked about it in the tag team match as well. But it does look pretty good. Surely we're going to do Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch too. Or Lyra better hope that we do. Otherwise, she's been totally screwed. Now, this one is very, very interesting, because Lyra's held that Intercontinental title for a while. We did just change the Chelsea Green one on SmackDown, so maybe this will be a Raw match. I would rather hold it off to pay-per-view, because again, it will have more importance to it. But I don't see Lyra holding on to this, and I think Becky Lynch's heel turn should lead to her becoming the IC champion, and then we really try and light a fire under that belt before Lyra does win it back in a few months' time or whenever works. But then you have Bayley involved in this too. Now, Bayley is interesting, because I don't think Bayley would be a heel. I'd have to imagine that Becky Lynch was the person that beat her up. Although, or did we actually see Liv and Raquel beat her up? I can't remember now. I can't remember what we saw. But either way, Bayley could be mad at Becky Lynch, going, excuse me, you just took my spot. So she could kind of interject herself in here as well. Does that lead to some kind of three-way at SummerSlam or before that? Because SummerSlam is a long way away. I don't know. But I think mostly this is optics, as sad as that sounds. That belt needs to be defended on pay-per-view. I love Zelina Vega winning the US title on SmackDown, but the build could have been better. The story could have been better. We could have added more gravitas to it. We didn't do that. So given that we have had a big heel turn, given that Lyra Valkyria and Becky do have great chemistry together, we should build this over the next next 3 weeks, get to St. Louis, do a title change where Becky Lynch cheats her ass off 100%, and then just move on to whatever is next. But both these titles, again, Zelina Vega is now the US champion. Let's use that as a stepping off point, and let's do the same with the Becky Lynch Lyra 1-2. They can get involved in a massive program. Again, you can stretch it out to SummerSlam. That's how good they are, and they were able to do it in NXT. I am a little fearful, not the right word, because you don't need to be scared about wrestling, that we do it on Raw, because sometimes these belts kind of feel like they're meant to be TV championships, which I'm not a fan of. I'd much rather they were thrown up as big as possible, because it's only going to help. But it should be pretty good. Again, I've never seen them have a bad match, but my gut does tell me it'll probably be Becky Lynch. On that note too, and we're doing too many matches now, I think we should have to pick 5, because WWE never does more than 5 on a secondary pay-per-view. But I mean, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky is something that has been teased after the big schmoz that we had on Raw, so you could do that as well. I guess it depends on how many titles you want to have on the line. Because again, I don't think Cody's going to be on this show at all, so that'd be interesting. I don't necessarily think Dominic defends his IC belt either. It could be against him and Finn Balor, but I think WWE may want to eke that story out a little bit. But then again, there's also the Street Profits that could be in a match, because Fraxium got called up to SmackDown. They made it very clear that they wanted the tag team titles, and the Street Profits won that all-time TLC match. So if you wanted to keep the momentum up with that, you could do that too. Again, what are the New Day doing? We have no idea. Do we not put Rusev on the pay-per-view? Do we not put Malachi Black on the pay-per-view? So it's kind of an interesting card. Is WWE going to try something different and add a couple more matches? Because I certainly would say that some shorter matches on these wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, especially because we get so many video packages and time wasting. Let's get rid of that and just try and stack the card a little bit better. I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know who Rusev or Malachi Black is getting into a proper feud with. I don't think it's Malachi. Aleister Black. I don't think it's going to be with The Miz long term. I think that's just for him to get a win, in the same way that I believe Rusev will probably roast the Alpha Academy before going on to somewhere else. But you do want to get these stars onto the pay-per-view just to tell the audience, oh my gosh, we're treating them as a big deal. Or you can make the argument, look what they did to Andrade, Simon. Maybe they're about to get the same treatment. Maybe they will. There's also a storyline match that we may be able to do, although I kind of think that WWE is going to hold this off for longer. But Gunther versus Pat McAfee is going to happen. When, where, we don't know. But Gunther got suspended recently, and the real reason Gunther got suspended is because he wanted to take some time off, and it is wonderful in brand new WWE that wrestlers are allowed to do that. But if he's taking time off and Backlash is only 3 weeks away, why rush it? I think Pat McAfee could be off TV. I think Gunther could be off TV. I think Money in the Bank is next. No, there's something in between that. Is it Clash in Paris? And that's after SummerSlam. The point is this. If we are building to Gunther versus Goldberg, which people keep teasing, we can go through Pat McAfee and then we can get to there, right? So you don't need to do it in this pay-per-view. We've already proven that we have a bunch of matches, but that will be in the ether too, right? We have to do, you can't ignore that now. We've seen Pat McAfee work matches before. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you have to wake up yourself. But I like the angle we did on Raw. I thought that achieved the goal wonderfully and was a great way for Gunther to get his heat back and also leave for a while, given that he did want a bit of a holiday and he tapped out to Jey Uso on WrestleMania Night 1. That is still a talking point, which I cannot believe. You know my thoughts on this. I do not care. He's the bad guy. Jey Uso is the good guy. And the hero should always be able to beat the villain in whichever way works in order for him to get the cheers and the love and the heroic ending, which we did do, because Jey Uso is the World Heavyweight Champion. And this kind of sums up the Backlash card too, as I actually do a segue I didn't mean to. I think Jey Uso is going to be on this card. I think Jey Uso versus Sami Zayn, given that Seth Rollins is now tied up with other things, could be the match we're heading towards. But there's no way you can set that up in 3 weeks. Again, are we going to do it in a show after that? Do we wait to Money in the Bank? Could Jey Uso have lost the belt by then, him win Money in the Bank? You don't know. That sounds absolutely ridiculous. Do we hold it off to SummerSlam? Because 2 nights this year for SummerSlam, and Jey Uso versus Sami Zayn, given their history together, could be sold as a mega big deal. And WWE does like to be very patient. Again, go back to Dominic and Finn Balor. They've been falling out for about 47,622 years. So yes, I think the Backlash card may have too many matches to stick on it. If I was going to settle on 5, maybe I'll throw a 6 in there. You're obviously getting John Cena, Randy Orton. You're definitely going to get that tag match with Seth Rollins as I look at my list. I think Lyra versus Becky Lynch is probably a lock because I think you want to highlight that IC championship. I think Tiffany versus Nia Jax will happen there too, but I say that very trepidatiously. And I think you get the US title match as well. That way you're defending a lot of championships. It doesn't matter you're not defending other championships. You have proper star power and you are saving stuff for TV. And that is true. Like people talked about the Street Profits match. I tweeted out that it was so good it was WrestleMania worthy. People got mad at me for that, saying, no, how dare you? I didn't mean that anyone had made a mistake. I'm just saying it was of the quality that if you had put it on WrestleMania where people just view things with more importance because that's how we've been trained, it probably would have smashed things through the roof. But the positive of it is that you were able to hold it off for SmackDown, and now people are looking at that SmackDown and going, oh my gosh, what a wonderful SmackDown it was after WrestleMania. That's why we saved off Rusev. That's why we saved off Aleister Black. It's just things to get excited about, and it's probably why we didn't see Jeff Cobb. He can then turn up in a few weeks, and they probably sign a bunch of other people too. Joe Hendry will turn up and get a massive pop at some point. So I do understand elongating this, and it's also why you don't need to throw 8 matches on the pay-per-view, even though I wouldn't mind it at all. Just make sure you time the show out well, and it doesn't go on too long. Now, more important than that, let me know what matches you think are going to happen on Backlash. Let's stick to 5, because 5 is usually the one that Triple H does go through, so it's going to make you think and cut some matches out here. And otherwise, please do like the video, share the video, subscribe, click the video on the screen, which is me talking about wrestling some more. And if you are into your fitness, go to gorillamind.com/Simon. Use code Simon, get 10% off. I use these supplements. I think they're great. Otherwise, it's Simon316 on all social media. What else do I have? Simon on TikTok. No, Simon Miller on Cameo for personalized videos. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. And ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller and SimonMiller.BigCartel.com for t-shirts. If you want to buy one of my stupid designs, I would massively appreciate it. I now need to go and sleep and rest my voice because I am still battered from WrestleMania. I think battered is a UK term, so I shouldn't have said it. I am not a fish, but I will talk to you very soon.